And I'm a Marlon Partridge. Well, hello everybody and welcome and on to this here entertainment news on Monday the 12th of May 2025. My name is Jonathan C. Walsh. Other people refer to me as Johnny Rhythm. And what is it Stephen refers to me as in the messenger chat?
Johnny Torch.
Johnny Torch. Joining me on my left, I'm your host incidentally, joining me on my left is Stephen John McLaughlin. He's a co-host on the show, stream, whatever, podcast, whatever you want to call it. Tonight, I'm going to move over a bit because I'm off centre and my OCD will simply not allow it. His top was very tight, by the way, very tight. Fucking large. I don't know what that says about me. But look, we're going to be discussing a couple of interesting topics tonight. I've put it on the thumbnail. One night only. It's not an innuendo. It's not a sort of suggestion. It's in regards to the Val Kilmer-led Batman Forever. Of course, Joel Schumacher directed movie from all the way back in 1995. Yeah, I was only 6 when it came out. I was a big fan of the film. Clearly. As I got older, the appreciation lessened just a little bit, but I still have fondness in my heart for this movie, Stephen. I was a massive fan of Jim Carrey growing up. I've always been a fan of Al and Tommy Lee Jones, so it had all the right faces in there. It was a slightly less serious iteration of Batman than what we've got in the modern day times with the emo Robert Pattinson Bruce Wayne and the sort of grounded, gritty, realistic Nolan trilogy. But I digress, Stephen. We'll get into discussions of the film and whatnot, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's getting I believe, one night director's cut I was about to say re-release, but theatrical release in an unnamed Los Angeles theatre. Now you may be asking, then why the fuck are you two gimps from Glasgow in Scotland, thousands of miles away, talking about it? Because it could potentially open the doors for a wide release if it gets great word of mouth, a great response. We may see this movie releasing wide. Stephen, is it something that you're interested in? Do you want to see purely from a sort of curiosity standpoint? I want to find out what the Schumacher cut is. I actually had it searched up. I never had a chance. We were running late. Well, I was running late, as I always am. Never had a chance to try and really do some research into this Schumacher cut. But from a purely curious standpoint, then it would be really interesting to see what his original vision was for the film.
I remember when we covered obviously the sad passing of Val Kilmer on one of our shows. I think we did a tribute to him and we were talking about his career and stuff like that. And obviously one of the topics of conversation, one of the main topics of conversation was talking about Batman Forever. And as you said, you grew up with that film. That was probably the one just at the right age for you to sort of, digest and understand all about the character. Obviously, the Burton ones were probably too early for you. I think the first one came out when you were born.
Yeah.
And the second one, Batman Returns, came out when you were 3, so far too young. But there's something about that one, something about the 1995 one, Joel Schumacher, and it was something I said on that show that one of the reasons I was looking forward to it was because of Val Kilmer and because I'd previously seen him in Tombstone and The Doors, and I was like, well, as much as I love Michael Keaton, if he's going to be replaced, then he might be replaced with a very good actor in Val Kilmer, and I knew he would do a good job. And then, as you mentioned, Tommy Lee Jones, both of us are big fans of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. So we knew that it was going to be a good cast, a good strong cast. Tonally was the issue. It was the tone of it was the issue. Now, according to this report, John, I think the Schumacher cut has about 35% more psychological sort of themes to it. And we touched on that. That was one of the things that we said on that show was, delving into Bruce Wayne's psyche and his the effects of his parents' murder and where it took him was one of the sort of main themes in the Schumacher cut. We only got glimpses of that, obviously, in the Warner Brothers cut, we'll call, because Joel Schumacher, John, and it's a shame because you look at the films that he directed before and after, the Batman films, and I'm looking at it now, St. Elmo's Fire, The Lost Boys, Flatliners, Dying Young, Falling Down,
Flatliners.
The
That
Client,
phone booth, by the way, as well. That was another one that I really enjoyed when it came out at the time. Number 23.
8mm, Phone Booth, Veronica Guerin. The list goes on. The number 23, which is one of your favourite Jim Carrey sort of more serious films, John. So the list goes on, but that period between 1995 and 1997 were those two Batman films, which were very influenced by the studio execs, who kind of got off scot-free on how bad those films were. Well, not so much Batman Forever, but Batman and Robin. And it tarnished Joel Schumacher. You know, that people would always remember him being connected with Batman and Robin, which was a really poor film. But in the case of Batman Forever, you could see there was good potential in there. There was good story arc, there was good themes going on. But obviously it was lightened up. And it was always going to be compared against the Tim Burton films, which were obviously more dark and gothic. But I still got a kick out of it, John. I've not seen it in a long time, but I don't think it was a bad film. But it's kind of weird because I think if Batman and Robin wasn't made, it probably would have been billed as the worst Batman film, which is kind of weird in a way.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad Batman and Robin came out because it meant Batman Forever wasn't going to be labelled that.
But again, it seems to be something over the course of the last 30 plus years that's remained true when it comes to prominent DC superhero characters in films adapted with their stories and just studio interference constantly at Warner Brothers. Just constantly interfering in these legendary characters and directors' visions. Of course, we've had the Snyder cut come out, which was fucking great. I enjoyed it. Very long, but it was great. Yeah. And it was his vision. And sadly, because of tragic circumstances, personal, with Zach, he had to move away and didn't get to see his vision play out. We've seen it with David Leitch. I want to say Ayer, the Ayer, because I always get them mixed up. You've got Lynch, Leitch, Ayer. I think it's Ayer done Suicide Squad. And he's got his cut in mind and he wants it released worldwide, but it's not going to happen because they've moved on, which is ironic. They're now releasing the Schumacher cut, they've released the Snyder cut, but he's not going to get his cut. But there seems to be one constant thing with Warner Brothers and DC, and them just interfering in the process, and it's always for the worse. They never seem to interfere and you hear something positive coming out. Every time they butt their nose in, they make a complete fucking arse of it, and the film is worse for it. Now you've got all the... I mean, obviously it's campier, Stephen. I mean, I remember watching the movie when I was young. Even then I thought, well, this is slightly cartoonish. I mean, you've got Jim Carrey dancing about in a bright green leotard. I don't think it was a leotard, but it was like a jumpsuit with question marks on it. Carrot red hair. Yeah. And then obviously Tommy Lee Jones playing Harvey Dent, Two-Face. And even that's cartoonised when you look at the Nolan version, how dark and grim that was. And you look back at the Tommy Lee Jones version, it's like a totally different genre, a totally different character. Yeah. And it's really, I mean, the acting was pretty ham. I remember him like looking at things and laughing. They were obviously told to mine into the sort of comic versions of the characters, and they have a very distinct sort of tone and vibe to them, and they were trying to make this sort of comic book style, I don't know, character pop off the screen. This was way before, I mean, you could say it was way before Nolan, but to be fair, I'm going to contradict myself by bringing Tim Burton into it, where he took that and made it slightly more serious. But even then, Stephen, I mean, you compare the Burton movies, which were iconic and pioneering for their time, to modern day iterations, and they look fucking campy and cartoonish as well compared to Nolan and what, blank on his name, Christ, man, most recent one. What's his name? Matt Reeves. Jesus. Yeah. You compare them, what was it? I'm glad you're dead, and stuff like that. Just the little jokes. Looks like he's getting a little hot under the collar and stuff like that. It's just, it campy, man. Very campy. Great performance from Nicholson, but campy nonetheless. So My memory of it is, as a kid, I loved the movie. I wasn't aware of these sort of... I mean, I think they did tap into elements of him being haunted by the demise of his parents, but if there's more of that involved with the Schumacher cut, then that's pretty cool.
I think that was the purpose of the Nicole Kidman character. She was the psychologist in it, and it was kind of weird that, you know, they portrayed her as that character, but, you know, in the end, she was just a damsel in distress, which was a kind of missed opportunity. But perhaps maybe there was stuff on the cutting room floor from both Nicole Kidman and Val Kilmer that we haven't seen, and perhaps maybe that 35% of the film that wasn't shown for the psychological tone is involving those two quite a bit. And
that's a sizable amount of film.
2.5 hours long or something, 2 hours 38 minutes or something is the running time of this cut, John. So it's a good length of time. I think I can't remember what the theatrical was.
Just over 2 hours, Stephen. 2 hours, 2 minutes.
Yeah. You're talking about half an hour of a film. That's a long time.
That's a long time, and we've seen before with legendary performances what the likes of Tony Hopkins did in Silence of the Lambs with 8 minutes. Just 8 minutes. So if you take that concept and it's heavily psychological and it's weighing on Batman and Bruce, and you've got a brilliant actor like Val Kilmer try to perform that and bring it to life, and it's 30 minutes worth, that could radically change the tone of the film. Obviously, with the performances from Jim, who I love, you're always going to have that degree of levity and campiness coming in. I mean, you just simply cannot erase it. There is no amount of rotoscope and a green screen and it's going to take that green jumpsuit out. So you can't work miracles. The tone is what it is, and the performances are what they are. But certainly if you could add in more psychological elements, it would maybe change a lot of people's... I mean, I don't think most people have a negative opinion on Val Kilmer as Batman. I think he's actually quite respected for his portrayal of Batman. He's up there. He's nowhere near like Clooney, who's the undisputed worst Batman ever. Fucking bat nipples and bat credit cards and bat butts and hey, freeze, I'm Batman. It's like, what the fuck is this shit? But I loved that movie when I was young as well. I'm not even going to sit here and lie, by the way. I'm not even going to sit here and kid on. I wasn't watching that religiously. I even remember the theme from that film. I'm pretty sure Batman and Robin was Clooney, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember it. I fucking loved the film when I was a kid. So maybe they were directing it at a younger demographic in those days, and obviously the sort of experience of comic book movies and the audience have grown up naturally over the last 30 years, and therefore there's a market now for a more serious kind of comic book movie, which maybe wasn't there 30 years ago. Maybe I mean, Stephen, you'd probably be able to speak to that more than me, because I was a lot younger than you were. You were probably like, what, 19? 19 when this came out. Yeah. So you would have probably had a better experience with what the sort of audience were wanting at that point, because you grew up, I think you says the first ever superhero movie you seen was that awful Spider-Man movie. Also, you grew up with the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. Was there a different attitude towards comic book movies in the 90s?
I think there was a lot of excitement for the Batman Forever movie at the time, as I recall, and there was a good promotion of it as well through the U2 Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me theme song, and I think Seal did Kiss from a Rose as well. So I think in terms of the promotion of it as well, I think you know, anyone that was going into expecting Batman Returns again, which, as I recall, it's probably it's in my top 5 anyway. Maybe in my top 3. But a lot of people didn't like Batman Returns, but they thought it was too dark. You know, so they've went the kind of other way with Batman Forever. But John, I liked it. The one constant throughout those 4 films, the 2 Burton ones and the 2 Schumacher ones, was obviously Michael
Steve,
Gough.
I'm going to admit I can't hear a word you're saying. I'm trying to get the audio back on mine. My speakers are playing up. That's you back.
Yeah, I'll keep gibbering away, John, just to see.
That's it. No, I'm
Yeah,
talking on my end.
it sounds like it's from your end, John,
Yeah.
because I think it's all coming through on YouTube.
No,
but
it's the speakers are just cut out at times. And I can see
yeah, I was
you're
just
almost
saying
like
that
Danny
they're
Malin.
constant throughout the 4 films, the 2 Tim Burton ones and the 2 Joel Schumacher ones was Michael Gough, the Alfred Pennyworth character.
Yeah, he's my Alfred. Yeah.
Played by the same. I think Pat Hingle as well was in all 4 of them. He played the commissioner.
Yeah, I
Gordon.
found that weird when I was younger that they were chopping and changing certain, obviously Batman, but those sort of supporting characters continued.
Yeah.
It was slightly
It was
strange.
weird.
Yeah,
And obviously Billy D. Williams was the original Harvey Dent, and
yeah.
apparently he was promised a bigger role in the 3rd movie, which was going to be, I think at the time, if Keaton was staying on and Burton was staying on, I think Robin Williams was going to be the Riddler.
Oh, could you imagine?
And Billy D. Williams was going to be Harvey Dent. So, I mean, it's
That would
a
have been
lot.
fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been incredible, but
That'd have changed Robin's career as well. I mean, he had a tremendous career, an unbelievable guy. I mean, I was just watching Pierce Brosnan talking about him on the set of Mrs. Doubtfire, how he's one of the funniest guys he ever had the pleasure of working with. Always made him laugh. He was always in character. He had a wonderful career, but if he was to have taken on a role like that and maybe went darker with it, because there's always that scope to go darker with the Riddler. Jim went a slightly campier, lighter way with the character.
We've seen Robin Williams do dark roles like 1 Hour Photo, which I thought was one of his best works. One of my favourite films from him. It was such a cynical and twisted character he played, but and he played it so well. You know, it's very disturbing. But yeah, it would have been really interesting to see where he'd have went with that. Whether it would have been the Jim Carrey route or would it have been somewhere in between.
He could do both, to be fair. Yeah.
But, I mean, it's one of those what ifs, and I think again, I mean, I might be wrong in saying this, but I think Burton and Michael Keaton probably had enough as well of the interference coming from other areas about the direction of the 3rd movie, and you know, they both walked away from it sadly. But in terms of Joel Schumacher, I would like to see this cut having a more like a wider release, and not just one event, one night, in one place. You know, if they could maybe do it in selected theatres throughout America and Europe, at least, it'd be interesting to see it. I mean, we've just had the re-release of Revenge of the Sith. A couple of years ago, John Stallone had the director's cut for Rocky IV out in the cinema as well. We've had obviously the 4K version of Terminator 2's re-release as well. So, I mean, there's definitely a want for classic films, you know, and different sort of iterations of those films, you know, that might change people's sort of view, you know, and this is one of them. I would like to see this version.
Steve, I'd love to see it. I've not seen it since I was a kid. It'd be great to go back and revisit it, hopefully with, like you maybe alluded to, more psychological stuff for Val, because Val was a fucking phenomenal actor. I mean, it still blows my mind that guy's actually not with us anymore, because I was looking at images, trying to put a thumbnail together last minute, and he was my age when he shot this film, and it's hard to believe that's only like 30 years ago, and that guy's not with us anymore. So it kind of just shows you how short life is, because he was so young and so vibrant and in the moment, and now not even 30 years later, well, exactly 30 years later, because it's coinciding with this release, the guy's no longer with us. So yeah, I mean, it's still hard to believe that guy ain't here, but I was going to discuss that as a sort of aside to this, Stephen, and I'm going to throw something else in before we maybe finish the conversation up. But we had a lot of discussion with, obviously, Revenge of the Sith coming out, about where audiences are, movie-going audiences are. I'm not saying that movies are dying on their arse in 2025. Obviously, there's still money being made. We've seen it last year. Inside Out, was it? 2 got like over $1 billion. There was movies touched $1 billion. Obviously, it's still thriving to an extent. But I think there's a lot of people in this day and age getting fed up with all the political bollocks and forcing all these modern day problems and societal ills into every single piece of fucking art, be it TV or movies. And sometimes just getting back to another era like with Revenge of the Sith or Terminator 2's recut or remaster. And with this kind of stuff, you're getting back to a more blissful era where there wasn't as much sort of ulterior motives and just bollocks getting injected in to every single piece of art that was released. And people are maybe clamouring to get back to simpler times, and that's why you're seeing Revenge of the Sith popping off and doing so well. I think a lot of that's down to the generation that grew up with those movies now firmly middle of the way into adult life, and they're going to want to go back and re-see it. And also there's a new appreciation for those movies because the generation that they were intended for are now of that age where they respect it and their opinions are getting put out there. I've seen the likes of Cody Rhodes, WWE wrestler, big Star Wars fan, says, I think he says controversial opinion, but the prequels aren't bad movies. I think you're seeing a lot of guys in their 30s and 40s and late 20s now starting to come out and show more appreciation for these movies. But I think a lot of it, Stephen, is that. I think that's why there's a market for these kind of films, to get a re-release. It's always been popular. We went and seen the fucking 3D version of The Phantom Menace when they were doing that, before Disney ruined it and took over. There's always been a market, but I think there is some sort of clamouring for yonder years where it was simpler times and there wasn't just this injection of identity politics and just modern pish getting put into everything. It just ruins it. Just wish we could get organic storytelling that reflects all of society, but it's done in a way that's not heavy-handed and just puts everybody off wanting to watch things because it's like, you can see what they're doing.
I think the content's out there, John. He's just got to look hard enough, I suppose. But in terms of obviously mainstream, I totally agree. I think just I think Hollywood is paralysed itself with fear for not wanting to be controversial, or they don't want to upset a certain sect of the world, or they're trying to target every audience possible, and you can't do that in film. Film has to be. Don't sacrifice a story to accommodate an audience. No. You'll find your audience if it's a good story.
Exactly.
That's the way I look at it. And I think they've paralysed themselves over the past decade or so, maybe 10, 15 years, with concerns over just silly politics. One of the reasons most people went to the cinema was for escapism, and to forget the real world. And one of the reasons that Star Wars was created was on the back of like the Vietnam War, all the Nixon administration and all that, and it was really just to take people away from the sort of reality of the world and give them a good versus evil story. And sometimes just keeping it as simple as that is the best thing. We've seen it in Andor. We've seen it in season 2, and we're doing the watch along at the moment. And it just takes you back to those sounding like an old fart here, but simpler times, and they were. And I think that's why people can go back to older films. John, we watched the Goonies at the tail end of last year. We did a watch along.
Never did go out.
No, I mean
Part 1's on the channel. It's not live.
Yeah.
But
I think just getting back to those sort of films, and you do find yourself watching the older films. Just it reminds you of times. You'll be watching a Charlton Heston film, John. I'm pretty sure, and it will remind you of spending time with your grandfather.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's moments like that that just remind you of the good times. And there's still good films out there, John. I really want to see that new A24 film that we did the trailer reaction for.
I know what one you're talking about.
The one with Michael Cena, or whatever he's called. I can't remember his name. Is it Wes Anderson? Wes Anderson, yeah.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I mean, Wes is just tremendous.
As I said, there is films out there that just put all the politics to one side and just make a really good story.
I don't even mind politics in movies, Stephen, but I mean, there has to be a justification for it. We don't have to have in every single movie or TV show. If it's a political story, it needs to be told, or you're delivering some satirical comedy based on events and you want to be clever with it. We know all about that. We've got Armando Iannucci from our part, who's one of the greatest satirists to ever walk the earth. we have got an appreciation for that kind of stuff, but you don't want it in everything. You don't want it in superhero movies. You don't really want it in Star Wars movies unless it's absolutely necessary. You want to avoid it, and it just feels like in modern times, like you said, Stephen, paralysed to an extent because every movie has to be multi-demographic because they're spending so much money, $300 million, and then they're promoting it. Before you know it, they're having to hit 700-800 million just to break even. Yeah. So with that in mind, you need to get as many eyeballs on the movie as possible so you don't get any more 18 movies, you don't get any more sort of controversial independent kind of movies, unless it's A24 or the odd Searchlight movie that comes out. Even then, they're not like what they used to be.
I know.
It's just multi-demographic, watered down bollocks. So I think that's why, I genuinely do believe that's why when you get movies like this coming out, silly though it was probably for the time, there's a lot of nostalgia and people wanting and yearning for simpler times. And you're seeing the movies succeeding. Hopefully Hollywood and the people involved take the right message from Revenge of the Sith and how it's been received by cinema-going audiences. And hopefully this does well and it's one night and we get a wider release and people get to celebrate Joel Schumacher and Val Kilmer in that story. And it makes them realise that simple stories, sometimes ridiculous performances within the simpler stories, can work. And sometimes you don't have to have every single fucking generation watching a movie. You can just have like a certain group of people make a cheap movie, put it out and people will enjoy it. Blumhouse do it all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it flops. Stephen, speaking about Batman, though, I don't know if we've ever done this. I think we did briefly do something like this. We may even have collabed with T3 Medias over this. I think we may have done Superman, though. And I think they done Batman. I can't remember. Right. But obviously there's been a few Batman actors over the years. I'm just going to throw this, very light-hearted. Don't have to spend any great length of time on it. But right off the top of my head, we've got Michael Keaton, obviously. Val Kilmer, Christian Bale, Adam West, Affleck, Clooney, Pattinson, and then you've got the voice acting guy, who I'm going to disrespect by calling him a voice acting guy.
Conroy.
He was doing it for fucking years. Where would you rate, like 1 to however many names I've rhymed off there, what would you say is the best, the top three, we'll say top three Batman actors? I'm throwing you under the bus here, I know. We never even discussed this at any point. Top five. Yeah, just Batman and Bruce Wayne. You can give your rationale as to where you rank them. We'll say top five. Someone has to miss out.
Yeah, Michael Keaton's probably the top one. I think just in terms of his Bruce Wayne and his Batman was just slightly different versions of himself. They weren't as obvious as Christian Bale's, but there's something really, I don't know the word, if it would be, it's not edgy, it's more of quite a dark, unnerving, sort of cynical side to Michael. Yeah, unnerving. Just that sort of presence he had and the way he just portrayed himself as Bruce Wayne. I think it's probably just coming off the back of obviously Adam West, and just that whole experience with the TV series and the TV movie, and just having that. And you talked about it earlier in terms of Tim Burton and Michael Keaton, and looking back at it, there's campy elements to it, but they were the ones that took that step. They were the ones that took the step from being the 1966 version of Batman into this sort of breaking these barriers into making him a more serious, character. And I think Michael Keaton had a lot to do with that. So I'd probably say Michael Keaton's probably my number one. My number two would probably be Christian Bale, just for the whole experience of the Nolan trilogy. It was a great beginning, middle and end. And I think Christian Bale really tapped into the sort of two sides of Bruce Wayne, more than just Bruce Wayne and Batman. So he had obviously the billionaire playboy sort of image, but also the more sincere side of the character as well. So I would say Christian Bale's probably my number two. My number three probably is Val Kilmer. I think, and it wasn't a great film, it wasn't a brilliant film, it's an okay film, but he was really good in it.
Yeah.
I really liked his performance in it as both Bruce Wayne and Batman. I mean, his Batman I don't think there was much difference in his Bruce Wayne and Batman, but the thing about the Bruce Wayne stuff was tapping into that psychological sort of terror and his, just the effect of his parents' deaths, and it was just tapped into, but not enough. And you could see there was more to it, and obviously what we've been talking about, there was more to it, which has been proven. So I think Val Kilmer's probably the third one. So Keaton, Bale, Kilmer.
Yeah, I've not got many disagreements with it. Before, I think I've said this before, Keaton's the best, just because he's got that disconnect in the characters. I mean, he's Wayne in particular is, for me, the best. Just brooding, get this edge to him, like you said, Stephen. And the movies were great, man, for their time. They still, to be fair, stand up. They've got all the elements you need for a great Batman movie. And it's just that you can tell there's psychological trauma with Bruce in certain performances, and I think Michael tapped into that brilliantly. Obviously, Christian Bale, I was, 19 when Batman Begins came out. And I hadn't even seen it, Stephen. You went and seen it in the theatre and you told me you have to watch this movie. And just phenomenal what Christian done. I mean, he's an unbelievable actor. But he had that sort of disconnect as well. But for me, just didn't do it quite as well as Michael. But that's not me ribbing on Christian, because I do love... I mean, I loved fucking Terminator Salvation. No one watched that movie and liked it, but I did. And Christian was a big part of that. And the cinematography, which was underrated. Unbelievable. I mean, who can forget that helicopter crash scene? So for me, I mean, just the moments with him as Wayne, I don't feel that we get enough of them in his franchise or his time playing the character. I love the moments in like the hotel when I bought over this hotel now, so I'm going to frolic about with these two girls in the fountain, and you're not going to do fuck all about it. The moments with, right, let's go, all you sycophants, time to go. I'm not joking. Go. Amusing but pointless. There's little moments in there, but for me, what makes Batman such a fascinating character, and I've said this about 50 million times, is he's almost like a fucking split personality. There's three versions of him. You've got Bruce, who's not the real man. You've got Batman by night, Vigilante, who's not the real man. There's something in between that's the real version of a character, and it's the ability to tap into that and tell a story with that is what makes it great. I've not seen enough of Kevin Conroy's performance. I think he did voice acting in the Arkham games. But by all accounts, unbelievable. I know you've watched a lot of animated stuff, Stephen. By all accounts, phenomenal in the role. I've seen enough of it to know that he was good. And obviously, Mark Hamill's Joker, he's right up there with the voice acting stuff, so I don't want to be disparaging with the voice acting side. But I'd probably agree on putting Kilmer in at third as well. I mean, Pattinson, we've only had one performance. And Affleck...
I mean, a lot of people think Affleck was the best, according to a lot of Facebook groups, John, just because of his portrayal of the older Bruce Wayne. But and I love Ben Affleck, as an actor. I think he's a phenomenal actor. And when he was cast, I was really happy because I knew he was a Batman fan. And I think you told me, John, that he actually had an actual back role. So it's the films more than anything that. I don't know, they just didn't sit with me at all.
One Batman movie as well. I mean, it's Batman, Superman, then it's Justice League, and then he's popping up in other things. He never had... I'm right in saying he never had a Batman movie. Am I tripping? I'm hallucinating here. He definitely didn't.
No, there wasn't enough. There just wasn't enough for
he was going to write the script.
It's a shame. I think there was great potential there, but... no, there just wasn't enough time spent with the actor playing the character, unfortunately.
And I think we can both agree that George Clooney's the worst. And look, it's not me shitting on George, but fucking terrible. Honestly, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a phenomenal actor, John, and I've seen him in so many great films, but it was bad from start to finish, and I think most of them that agreed to be in that was for the money more than anything.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it, that film when you get Arnold Schwarzenegger top billing and he's not even Batman?
I know. That's because he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's why.
Yeah. John, I was going I know we're going to be moving on to another topic shortly, but I did read reports that the Batman 2 is being cancelled.
Cancelled, yeah, I heard that, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
You know, Stephen, it wouldn't bother me because it was a great standalone singular story, and you don't really need to expand it out. There's always this hard-on from Hollywood executives to make everything into a trilogy. Everything has to be an expanded universe. Sometimes you can have a singular great movie and just leave it at that. Donnie Darko, Shawshank Redemption. I'm sure there's other ones off the top of my head that I can't think of. Terminator should have been a duology and done after that. 2 movies finished. Sometimes you can just leave it. And when you think of that movie, the journey in that movie of Batman, he goes from this really almost violent version to leading this movement that he doesn't really want to lead, where the criminals and this sort of edgy element in society are taking his sort of... If I'm right in saying, I've not seen it in a while, they do hijack his sort of line, don't they? I'm forgetting what the line is. He's got this sort of phrase or this belief, and they hijack it, and that kind of shocks him at the end when he sees what has came of that. And I always said it was like a rebirth. It was like he was baptised in the water when he fell down and was shocked, and he came out as Batman that we know and love after that. But it was a great singular story. You see the arc, the evolvement of the, if that's even, that's not a word, the evolution is the word I'm looking for, of Batman in the story. What I would say is we didn't get enough Wayne in that either, and we didn't have enough Alfred.
This is the thing, John, about that film. If we're not to get another film, it wouldn't bother me too much, because I think where it was going, we've already seen anyway. You know, it becomes Batman and then he fights crime as Batman. We've seen it. We've seen it time and time before. But what I will say is that if it doesn't happen, give it 10 years and people will be clamouring for Robert Pattinson to get a sequel, like they are with Andrew Garfield right now with The Amazing Spider-Man. It's just people are nostalgic. At the time, perhaps weren't as appreciative of the franchise or all those certain films, but as time goes on, like we've seen with obviously Revenge of the Sith, people can look back and go, you know something, that wasn't a bad film. It wasn't a bad film at all. And the Batman did get a lot of a bad rap on its release as well. People thought it was too emo. I thought it was great, John. I really enjoyed it. You, Gianni, myself reviewed the film. I can't remember the ratings at the time. It was a long time ago, but it has been, what is it, 4 years since that film came out. You know,
I mean, Robert's signed up for other movies now as well. I know for a fact he's signed up for other movies, and obviously with Peter Safran and James Gunn, I nearly forgot James Gunn's name, fucking hell. They have taken control of a new DC universe, and they're wanting to do their own Batman movie, their own sort of stories, and that'll be the elephant in the room, having another Batman story in the background. And look, to be fair, they always joke that, the audience is too dumb to realise that this is not connected to the other movies. And we used to joke about that with Star Wars. Like, there's no way anyone's stupid enough. But then Rogue One came out, and there was genuinely people expecting to see Kylo Ren. So... So, I mean, you can't fucking risk. You just can't risk it in this day and age, having 2 free Batman characters with disconnected.
Bury another Batman.
You can't bury another Batman. So, it wouldn't surprise me if they've cancelled it. Matt Reeves has been taking his fucking time. He's took an eternity with this sequel. And the longer it's getting out, more time's passing. By the time you get into production, it'll be like 5-6 years since the first fucking movie. I mean, it'll be noticeably aging for Robert Pattinson.
They should have learned the lesson from the Flash film.
Oh, God.
Ezra Miller writing a story that took almost 10 years. You know, and
Steve, I've still not seen that.
Nowadays, John, they don't want to hang about for a sequel if it takes too long. They move on very quickly, and they sort of disconnect themselves.
I've still not seen that Flash movie. I heard it was brilliant. You seen it, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. There was a lot of good moments in it, John, but it's still not a great film.
I mean, Ezra's a crackpot. He is. There's no doubt about it. But you can't deny he's a fucking great actor. I mean, he made those Fantastic Beasts movies almost watchable with his sort of supporting character, whose name completely eludes me now. I want to banish those movies out of my fucking memory. But he's a tremendous actor. And obviously he was passionate about the character. But he's just troubled. He's a troubled guy.
Yeah.
But that is what it is. I can do about that. It's not my problem. I'm not fucking Ezra Miller. I wasn't turning up at conventions dressed as Miss Toad. He did, and to be fair, he pulled it off. Shall we move on though, Stephen, to the second topic, which I know you are buzzing to talk about. I think you says everything you can possibly say on these movies and why you're not looking forward to them, but we'll bring it up. Topic 2 is all about Beatles biopics get writers. That's the worst piece of English that you will ever see on this channel. Beatles biopics get writers. I couldn't fit it in.
Yeah.
And I just flat out refused to size down the font. So that's what you get. Beatles biopics get writers. But I'm going to bring this up. I don't know if it'll work. It probably won't work. Can't get anything to fucking work on this Stream Deck for some reason. Bring this one up here. I think this is the one we're looking for. Yes. No, it's not. It's the other one. No, it's not. Let's try this again. Right. We'll size it down so we've got a more... No, what the fuck, this is shambolic. Anyway, you get the gist. Jack Thorne, Jez Butterworth and Peter Strawn, I don't know how to say that name. Get us up on the screen as well. There we go. Right, move that over. There we go, so we can actually see. This is a shambolic setup. I should make sure all this is working before the stream.
Light colour by Deluxe.
Specsavers on the right hand side as well. I'll need fucking glasses sitting in this room with these two moonlights and that whiteness absolutely assault my eyeballs. But Stephen, the movie, obviously 4 movies. Sam Mendes is involved in the interconnected biopics about obviously Paul, George, John and Ringo. I don't know why I said it that way. John, Paul, George and Ringo. That's the correct way to say it because that's the order of greatness.
Listen, on these Facebook pages, it's Paul first.
Oh, fucking Paul's great, but he's not John. John was definitely the driving force behind the Beatles. I wouldn't have been the Beatles without John. And Paul would have been but a footnote in history if it wasn't for John and the Quarrymen attracting his gaze. And then John being modest enough to invite a man of such talent into his band. Because a lot of people would have small penis syndrome when a man of James Paul McCartney walks up to you with those glasses and that hair and that height and the just unbelievable amount of talent that he possesses, the vocal range, most people would run away and say, fuck right off, certainly in Liverpool, get the fuck. You're not coming into my band. You're better than me, fuck off. But John knew he was better. And so John, of course, said, no, come right in, Paul. And what we got was sheer and utter fucking magic, which has been handed down generational since, to the point where, Stephen, 2025, and we have got 4 interconnected biopics getting made with the great Sam Mendes. Yeah. We've got the cast, slightly underwhelming. I'm not talking about the actors, but just the looks and how they fit. But I suppose you have to get over that. We spoke about this before, didn't we? With Harrison Ford's look-alike, when they were talking about Han Solo getting a standalone movie. I forget his name. He was on YouTube doing impersonations. That doesn't work. You can't have an impersonation of a character or of a person. You need to have great actors making the person themselves, if you like, and delivering a role with their own sort of touch on it. You can't have people looking the exact fucking same. Otherwise, you've got the bootleg Beatles. But we've got writers. Deadline sources. Adolescent scribe Jack Thorne, Mendes' Spectre collaborator Jez Butterworth and Oscar-winning Conclave writer Peter Strawn, that name really does trip me up, are all coming together to tackle screenplays for the ambitious undertaking, currently somewhat nebulously titled The Beatles, a 4-film cinematic event. Yeah, that name is fucking terrible. That can get in the bin. That's not going to work. Stephen, what is your thoughts on this? Have you got any thoughts on this? Does this change your opinion on this 4-film Beatles biopic experience, cinematic event? Just the talent they're starting to assemble, certainly in front. We know with Paul Mescal and Barry Keoghan what we're getting. I know less about the other two. But with the writing talent now and the directing talent, they really are taking it serious, man. I mean, this is like proper writers we've got involved here telling this story. So does this change your opinion any
Not
on
really, no.
what we're getting here?
The reason it doesn't really change my opinion is because I knew when Mendes was attached to this project, I knew he'd bring in the best team possible anyway. And no doubt these are the right writers, and obviously we've got the right director in place. And nothing against the actors, I think they're all fine actors, the ones I know anyway. But these kind of things, this is just a personal thing. There'll be a lot of people excited about this, Beatle fans. It's never going to live up to the expectations of a Beatles fan. Most people that have invested the time to listen to their music and read their books. And I had a box set. It was a red, green, yellow, and blue box set, and it had it was the individual stories of each of the Beatles from through the Beatles right through to their sort of solo careers, and obviously the deaths of I think John at the time. I think George was still alive when this box set came out. So it's one of those things that I know the stories of all four of them as a group and as single artists as well. And I don't think there's anything in there that's going to really interest me that I don't already know, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's really another thing is this concern I've got, particularly with Paul McCartney's story, where it's going to go, and Ringo as well to an extent, because the two of them are still living and still have a say in what's going to go into these stories. They're going to have to get permission from both Paul and Ringo for these stories to be carried out. And we're not going to get the real versions of, Don't Cry, Emma,
Yeah.
we're not going to get that in a Paul story. The John one, I think, is the other one that will concern me as well, because there has been a narrative over the past 10, 15 years, and a change in sort of landscape and the perception of John Lennon, and it's always been there in case of his personal life, his relationship with Yoko Ono, and his relationship with Cynthia and Julian, and everything that goes with that, and people pigeonhole certain years and hold him to that, and will forever judge him on that, whereas they don't sort of mention the fact that he actually had a better relationship with Julian by 1978.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his life was cut short, so we never really know how it was going to play out in terms of his relationships with Cynthia and Julian, etc., and Paul McCartney as well. So you're only going to get what and I don't know. I just, it doesn't really interest me at all. I can never suspend belief when it comes to biopics. And as much as I liked Walk the Line, I just didn't see Johnny Cash as Joaquin Phoenix. And it's the same with the Elvis one as well. I don't see the person I'm supposed to be seeing, and I don't think it's going to change in these films. I don't even know how they're going to do this. Is this going to be after the breakup, or is it going to be during the Beatles? Because how's that going to work?
I think it's probably going to, because it can't be younger.
It's a separate film.
Fucking older. I genuinely don't know how they're going to do it, Stephen, because it seems like something that's very, I don't know, artsy in its construct. And it seems like it's a good idea on paper to have these four stories telling out and then converging at some point. But how the fuck are they going to make this work, man? As a 4-part movie, we're going to get it from Ringo's perspective, the same stuff. They're going to shoot the film with all 4 actors and then split it up. And we'll have Ringo doing his stuff day by day. And it could work. It could be absolutely incredible if it pays off. And you've almost got like Back to the Future 2 stuff going on where you're seeing it from different perspectives. If they do it like that, and you've got
the release as well is concerning. How do you release it?
I don't know. I really don't. Would it be released?
You have to hit the ground running with the first movie.
Yeah, that's why you'd probably have to go John or Paul with the first one.
Yeah.
And then you just, subsequent releases, you see it from Ringo's perspective, how the events of the Beatles played out. It could work. In theory, it could be very good, but I've got concerns over how they make that work, because it seems quite complicated. And if they don't get it right, like you said with the first movie, then the whole thing's doomed. It's like the Monster Universe from Universal. They released the Mummy movie with Sophia Boutella and Tom Cruise, and it just fucking dead on arrival.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I mean, in terms of the writing talent, I find it strange they've led with your man being the adolescent scribe, Jack Thornton. I'd have probably went with This Is England. When I was talking about him, I went with Adolescence, because that's been very controversial. That was a TV show released a couple of months ago, I think, about a young kid in England stabbing someone and being charged with murder. And also, you had the usual fucking idiots on social media going on about, well, he's white. It's a white boy. Why are you showing a white boy? You're demonising all these white kids. The white people are demonised in this country. Shut up, clowns. Honest to God, man. Absolute idiots. It doesn't matter what colour the fucking character's skin is. They're telling a story about this kid from a troubled background being shaped by society into this monster that will ultimately murder in his childhood. It doesn't matter whether he's Asian, black, white, Indian. It doesn't matter. It's about the story. And getting that story through to younger people, older people, changing society through art. That's what it's all about. You fucking idiots. But they just can't help themselves. They have to go into social media and mouth off. But I mean, he's a great writer. He's worked in a lot of great stuff. Interesting sort of combination of writers, because when you think obviously Jez Butterworth, he's been working on a lot of action Hollywood stuff, the likes of Spectre, Edge of Tomorrow, and obviously Conclave's a totally different thing again. So you're getting different kinds of writers involved here. I wonder what that's about. Whether they're dabbling with different genres. They're trying to maybe inject some of the Beatles spirit in, where it has serious at times. It's quite funny at times. There's a lot of fucking high octane stuff in the eye of the hurricane during Beatlemania when they're getting whisked off to America. I wonder if they're trying to capture all of that through different writers, and you're getting all of this sort of melting pot of themes being explored.
I think I'd be more interested in if they were just covering their careers after the split, and
yeah.
But then again, they've got to tread carefully.
That's something I've not seen.
No, I mean, I remember there was a talk about Yoko Ono greenlighting a Lennon sort of biopic set between 1975 and 1980, and Ewan McGregor was going to be playing John Lennon. And it kind of intrigued me at the time, and I thought, it's still Ewan McGregor though, it's like Robert Carlyle playing the older version of John in that film yesterday, and that's not fucking John.
Robert Carlyle played Adolf Hitler, by the way, in a movie. Yeah. And I've seen clips of it, he done pretty well. A very angry little Scottish guy, playing an angry little German, Austrian guy.
But it doesn't matter, to me anyway. I mean, this is more a personal thing than anything. There'll be a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, I can go and see this now, enjoy this." Shut up. It's just something I can't sort of separate, in my head. When I see an actor playing someone else that, that was perhaps maybe an idol or something like that, and separate it. Same with Austin Butler. It's fucking Austin Butler dressed up as Elvis.
It's funny because I was watching a streamer on Twitch who I used to watch back in the day. He's been streaming a lot recently again. And he was talking about that briefly when I popped into the stream. How he can't, there's certain actors that take him out of the movie. And it's guys like Jared Leto, phenomenal actor, but he's like, oh, there's Jared Leto. And he just, Joaquin Phoenix, you just can't take yourself, you can't envelop yourself in the story because they're so well known. So I do wonder if that's a mistake with Mescal and Barry Keoghan. I don't know about Harris Dickinson because I don't know a huge amount about him, or Joseph Quinn. But those other two are just, they're widely known actors at this point. They've been going for Oscars and Golden Globes.
If anyone's watching this, and they go, I'm going to look at their fucking movie reviews, and they come across Nowhere Boy and see I've wrote it. The thing about Nowhere Boy was it was a sort of it was a period that was undiscovered for me. That's the reason I watched it. I'd only really known about the meeting at the Church Fete with Paul McCartney, but I really wanted to see the relationship between John and his mum, and John and his aunt, and the sort of complexities they had, with obviously his parents, obviously his father abandoning them, and then his mother being killed. And I wanted to really watch it from that perspective more than anything, because I hadn't seen that anywhere before, and I hadn't really read it. That was the only reason I watched Nowhere Boy. It was really just to sort of see that period of time that hadn't really been covered in film think the earliest they went back cinematically was probably Backbeat.
Yeah.
Was the Hamburg days, but it didn't go back as far as that, you know. So
Yeah,
so there you are.
You think of Nowhere Boys well. I mean, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, I'm talking about relatively well. I mean, he wasn't well known at that point, to be fair. He was at the start of his career. But he didn't look a fucking thing like John Lennon. And to be fair, Harris Dickinson doesn't look a thing like John Lennon either. So, I don't know. That's always the trouble when you're dealing with such prominent figures like the Beatles and obviously Elvis. I mean, Butler, to be fair, looked fucking spit, Elvis. I mean, it was unbelievable. Movie was a bit long, got a little bit boring at parts.
Shake it off the months.
Yeah, I know. Oh, listen, Steen, I feel for him. To be fair, he picked the worst year to go for that kind of role. Any other year, he'd have won the Academy Award. Any other year, but he chooses the Brendan fucking Fraser redemption year, and it's just torpedoed out the water. I mean, Rami Malek won a fucking Oscar playing Freddie Mercury. You can't seriously tell me that performance was better than Austin Butler's Elvis.
I don't think it was.
It fucking wasn't. So any other year, he wins.
I like Rami Malek, John, as you know, but Rami Malek plays Rami Malek. I don't think he even plays Freddie Mercury. It's fucking Rami Malek he's playing.
You know, I just see the Pacific. When I see him, I see him popping like a stone into a dead guy's head, and it's like, that's Rami Malek, yeah. Oh, he's playing Freddie Mercury. But you're right, it's Rami Malek. It was a good performance, but come on.
Yeah.
So
good film.
It was, but I mean, there's certain movies, like you said, Johnny Cash, I like Walk the Line, but I mean, he doesn't look like Johnny Cash. And it's this Bowie one that came out, never did watch it. I had no intentions of watching it. It didn't have the blessing of the estate, it didn't have the music. You can't make a fucking film about a musical icon and not have the music in it. Obviously,
just imagine that soundtrack. Starman renamed Moonman, shit like that.
Taron Egerton is Elton John as well. It's just... You're really struggling.
I didn't mind Rocket Man because it kind of took the sort of story in a surreal direction.
Stephen, that's where you would win with a Beatles movie. That's where you would succeed. If you focus it on like 65 through to 69 and I'm taking acid and all this shit, and it almost becomes like fucking Yellow Submarine live action, where you take musical elements, it's almost like the Love album, but it's in a film. And you go down this transcendental, trippy, hallucinogenic, if I can even speak. That's an interesting route to go down. They chose the wrong actor. What's that?
Some might say that's magical mystery.
Yeah, it is, yeah. But, exactly, yeah. But based on the actual guys and their career, instead of some trippy fucking dream where Lennon's shoveling pasta onto some fat bird's plate. I mean, there's scope to do something there. There's scope to do something interesting with that kind of story. But you're right, with the same biopic regurgitated again and again and again. They're trying to do something different, to be fair, with the 4 independent movies. I've not got a fucking clue how they make that work. I'm not convinced that's going to work. I don't know. I think you'd have been better doing like a HBO miniseries in like 1.5 hour even per character, and it's from different perspectives, and then you've got a fucking even longer story. It's like a 7-hour story, 5-hour story. I'm shite at maths, I can't work out with 4 1.5.
The thing about, you know, as individuals, John, the one that's protected their own legacy and their own sort of perception has been Paul, you know, for so long, because he is that type of guy that wants to be loved, and he wants to make sure that legacy remains intact, and his family are around him. He's got quite a solid unit there that will make sure that's looked after even once he's passed away. With John Lennon, Yoko's, you know, in her 90s now. Cynthia's passed away, sadly. Julian probably wouldn't want to be involved in anything, and Sean's too young to know all the backstory.
Yeah.
Same with George. Olivia only came on the scene in the late 70s, so she wouldn't know the Beatles side of George's story, and Ringo just doesn't fucking care, does he? He doesn't give a fuck.
Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love.
You know, he's
Peace
just
and love, everybody.
Life, as you should, and doesn't really care what people think. So it's just how much attention they're going to give each of them, and respect they're going to give each of them? Is it going to be a bit off balance? Is Paul's going to be more?
And I wouldn't want them to whitewash Lennon. I wouldn't want them to whitewash Lennon as this holier than thou sort of candy floss guy. He's not.
I don't think they will.
They'd have to show the demons, because that's what made Lennon such an intriguing guy. That's what powered the art and the brilliance of the songwriting and the music and all of that. That's what made him.
Yeah.
The troubles, being abandoned by his father, losing his mother at 16, having to live with his aunt, all the stuff that went on. And like you said, Stephen,
one that they did, I think, in 2010.
That was good, that was decent.
Like that. I mean, it's fucking Doctor Who playing John Lennon.
Too tall as well, wasn't he?
He was far too tall. But in terms of the story they covered, they didn't gloss over anything. I mean, it could be a right bastard.
He could, yeah. We all
He
can.
admitted that, John. This is one of the things that I love about John Lennon. He admitted his faults. He never shied away from them.
Who can't be a bastard, Stephen?
I've not been a good father to Julian. And I'm
but Steve, you know what winds me up with that though, Stephen? That stuff about Julian Lennon and him being scolded by utter bellends who think they're purer than pure, fucking angelic, and haven't got any demons in their closets. He was a young guy when they broke through with the Beatles. He was only like 22, 23. He had Julian when he was young. He was married very young. He was still trying to find himself as a person. He had all those demons he was carrying with him, and then the craziness of Beatlemania and the newfound fame and all these hangers-on, probably sycophants, brown-nosing and hero worshipping and fucking wanting a little moment. Obviously, the likes of Magic Alex and all these fucking clowns that he used to fall for.
Yeah.
He didn't become himself until the mid-70s, probably. That's probably when he grew into and he done all that therapy. He was in his mid-30s.
It was probably that. I think you could see he was getting his life together.
That's when he learned to be a father, though, Stephen. That's when he realised that he'd screwed up with Julian. And I think if he hadn't been tragically assassinated, he'd have made amends with Julian. And he'd have
definitely there, John. I mean, you just have to Google image John and Julian Lennon photographs from 1978 to 1980. There's hundreds of them. They spend a lot of time together during those times, but obviously you can't fix the past, but you can certainly make sure the future's brighter. But sadly for John Lennon, he didn't have a future.
Yeah. And again, I would want them to explore that in a film, and I just don't think they'd do it. And Paul had some tragedy in his life as well. Was it his mother he lost young?
Yeah.
And he openly admitted in that book that I read about his life, which fucking didn't whitewash him by any means. There's some great, like that line he says, "It's not you, it's me." One of the great lines from Paul. But he openly spoke about how he had trouble processing grief. I don't think he went home to be at his mother's funeral.
I think I don't know whether it's true or not, but it sums up Paul's sort of way of coping with death. And admittedly, he has said that he struggles with his intimate feelings towards death. In particular with obviously it's a drag in it.
Yeah.
Quote that he did with Lennon's death, but with his mother, I think I did read somewhere that the first thing he asked his dad when his mother died was, "Who's going to bring in the money?"
Yeah,
and it's a very innocent, off the cuff kind of remark. It's not, you're not thinking, and everyone deals with it differently.
Yeah.
And he's always had that issue with showing his true feelings, when it comes to certain things, and there's nothing wrong with that. Certain things should be private, and certainly when John was killed, I'm pretty sure, I don't think he's ever got over it,
That was ridiculous, so asking him that. We're talking about halfway through the next day, and you're asking him what his thoughts are. Leave the guy alone, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
You would not go up to somebody and ask them, "What's your thoughts on that person you were really close with, by the way, being brutally murdered outside their house just yesterday, a couple of hours ago?
Yep.
What are you wanting for the guy? Fucking hell." And then also they done it when George passed away, and he was a little bit more assured then. I mean, that was a long dragged out illness, so he had time to come to terms with that. When someone you are close with gets brutally murdered and you're not expecting it, you could see in his face
Yeah.
He was absolutely fucking lost. You could
Yeah.
see that he's literally saying, I had to go into the studio and muck about just to take my mind off it. Ridiculous nonsense to ask somebody a question like that. But I don't know, man. With these biopics, I hope they turn out to be great. For the actors, for the writers, for Beatles fans, because it would be interesting to get something fresh told. I mean, I don't know how fresh you can retell a story. It's been told a million times, but if there's a will, there's a way. Look how bright my fucking neck is, by the way. I've been absolutely destroyed by the sun again today. This is unprecedented weather we're getting in Scotland. I want to say it's been a solid 2 weeks at like 19 to 20 degrees, sometimes 21, 22 degree dry weather. And it's forecast to go right through the week. It's fucking brilliant.
It's funny when you talk about those temperatures, because I remember when we were doing a review of Deadpool and Wolverine, we were doing it with Sin over in America, and she just wasn't impressed with those temperatures.
No,
at all.
that's cold over there. But for here, that's walking about with no top on. Obviously, I'm not doing that because I'm not in the fucking shape. I'm working on that at the moment, but as you can see, my neck's certainly getting destroyed. As you can see, I'm definitely working on it at the moment. But look, man, I digress. That's going around. Oh,
I can go that way.
See, to be fair, that's not very flattering of where I'm at in terms of my physique. It's a fucking take on. I'm actually not too bad, man. I'm fucking pretty solid, to be fair. I mean, look at that. Fucking decent.
I can't talk.
Pretty decent. This top's
I
just...
can't do anything with this hernia just now.
This top's just clinging. I mean, see when I start doing that, you can see that I'm not too bad, to be honest with you. I'm not too bad. It's just a bad angle. I'm sitting back. It doesn't look great. But look, what is your thoughts anyway? What is your thoughts on... I mean, that's a large. Fucking hell, man. I remember the days I was wearing a small. I was a fucking skeleton. What is your thoughts on the topics we touched upon on the show stream tonight? What's your thoughts on Batman Forever? Joel Schumacher's cut getting a limited theatrical release in LA and an unnamed theatre. Is it something you'd like to see continuing on? Would you like to see a wider release? What's your thoughts on these releases in general of classic movies? Thoughts on the writers being announced for the upcoming Sam Mendes Beatles biopics? Anything at all we touched upon, you can comment down below and share your thoughts on in the comment section. Like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyes on YouTube. I was about to say the YouTube, but I am not fucking 60 years old. So I immediately made a mental note. Never even think about that ever again, let alone say it. Same thing over on Twitch, follow button, notifications button over there to see us live on a completely different platform doing the exact same thing. And also have to be said is until next time, thank you once again for watching us. And bye-bye. Didn't work. Bye-bye.